The woman that told me she bakes her soil.
So, all right.
The spraying, the drenching the leaves
Yes.
and rubbing alcohol. How suddenly your whole breakfast needs to go to your plants.
You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You're overwatering. Stop with the banana pills. I don't have much to say on that, but just stop. It doesn't work. It's not a thing.
Hi, I'm Stacy, Director of Marketing and All Things Social.
And I'm Tiffany, the founder of Thrive Roots.
Welcome to Soil and Sips. Grab yourself a drink, because apparently we need to have a conversation.
Where we talk about plants, drink things, and gently tell you you're doing too much.
Heavy on the gentle, Tiffany.
Debatable, Stace. It's the soil.
It's always the soil. Cheers.
Cheers.
We switched to margaritas. Mm-hmm. Okay. So soil, it's always the soil. Let's speak on that.
Okay, so soil's interesting because, yes, it is usually always the soil. And soil is I call it the redheaded stepchild, right? It's the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. And that's because people don't understand it, right? Like you said, you buy the soil.
I thought dirt just dirted. It's true though.
It just dirts, right?
Dirt dirts. It's there. Dirt just dirts. It does the dirt.
But it doesn't, And I think that's the thing that, we really am trying to give the education and exposure on, because dirt doesn't just dirt. Dirt needs love and a care and affection like we do, like our plants do, like our leaves do, like our roots do, but it is the soil, it is always the soil. And so, I think the reason why people don't pay attention to the soil, to your point, one, we buy the soil. We think the soil just soils, the dirt just dirt.
Soil's forever.
It's forever, right? And it can be. It can be overused and used over again, but its soil needs to be amended. So we need to make sure we're constantly giving it the nutrients that it needs. So that's an important fact of, yes, it is a true statement with a caveat, right? Soil you can use forever. You can continue to use it.
I didn't know there was living soil and dead soil. I thought just soiled, like dirted. I didn't know it was alive or dead.
Yeah, so soil is definitely alive. Soil actually contains a lot of microbes, right? And so soil also contains bacteria. And what we find is that when people hear that, they're like, bacteria, oh my gosh, that's really bad. But soil actually has both good and can have bad bacteria, right? And there's a way for us to manage both of those. But healthy microbes are and think of microbes, because people use that word very loosely in this space, everything has microbes. You could use worms, a lot of castings. People use castings to amend their soil to give it microbes. There's those things. But if you don't have access to castings or worms or those things, a soil amendment like Thrive Roots will actually help amend your soil without you having to go out and get live organisms, right, to put into your soil, right? You might not want to touch them. I remember at your house.
I choose Smell Good bottle over real live worms.
And when you had your plants at your house, you had the worms. I mean, they were great. And I was picking them up, putting them back in, because if you have them, please keep them. If you have them, keep them. Right? And you want to keep them and you want to continue to use them to amend the soil. But I think, the importance of the soil is, like I said, it's people just don't think about it, to your point. It's just, they just see it and it's there. The soil in your plants have live microorganisms in your soil. And there's a lot of organic ways to get that. Our product obviously has, a formulation that delivers that, and also pH balance. Your soil also needs to have a pH balance to it. People don't understand that. It's very sciencey, right? People doesn't want to talk about science, right? And I don't either. I have my plants. It's cute. I want to see a plant. I want to see it look beautiful. I don't want to get into the details of science. So to put it in layman's terms so that it make sense, that's our motto too, make it make sense, is simply this. Your soil, just like your plant, is a living organism. Your soil has to have a healthy and sustainable ecosystem so that your roots and your leaves, because when people say plants, they just say, oh, it's my plant. But your plant is a combination of things. It's the roots, the soil, the stem, and the leaves, right? So everything starts in soil, and that's what we say, right? Your roots are living in that ecosystem, which is the soil. And those roots then feed the stem that then feeds the leaves, right? So it starts in the soil. So what I would say is, just to keep it very simple, the healthier the soil, the healthier the plant. Your plant has living organisms in them. They should have living organism in them if you don't do crazy things, which we'll talk about on our next episode, to get rid of them. And it's very important that you perpetually feed your soil so that it can feed your plant, so that it can be very healthy. Microbes are, a fancy word of saying just that, organisms in an environment in your plant that help your plants have a sustainable growth. And over time, as you repot and replant and your plants die in that environment, you have to then create the environment again so that those microbes can live.
Bring your soil back to life.
Bring it back to life. You don't need to throw it in the garbage. You don't need to do all those things. You just need to bring it back to life, and it's a simple thing to do. I think of microbes another way is a probiotic, right? Like, we all know, most of us know what a probiotic is and what it does to our bodies with your gut health. If you really understand anatomy, and not to go into too much science, but everything starts in your gut. So if you have gut issues, you are told to take a probiotic because that helps
balance your good and bad bacteria.
Exactly. Right? See, it's just simple. So you know that. That's the same thing for your plant. So if we really look at our plants as our part, as a living organism, as part of a living structure like ourselves, we'll really get a better understanding of what the soil and the plant does. So I tell everybody, think of amending your soil like giving your gut a probiotic. Watch and see how your plant really thrives, which is why we call it Thrive Roots, because it's soil, roots, stem, leaves. It's really that simple.
You're pushing it on the simple part.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right, Say, so this is the best topic. So let me start with this. This is one of my favorite topics because I like to talk shit. So this is my favorite topic. You are on our social all day, every day. Like all day, every day, that's all you do. You are TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. And then when we're at shows, you run around and interview people about like what's happening in their plant world. Let's talk about some of the craziest things that we've heard and that you've seen around plant care and plant health. And let's try to debunk why they don't make sense.
Well, first of all, it's the whole reason we drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need a beverage to calm your nerves.
Yes, and owning your own business is a whole thing. So we're drinking for both.
No, I've owned my own business for a very long time, and when you have to go out and talk to the people about how they care for their plants, I need a drink.
Yes,
because I may not be a plant genius. But seriously. I know when you say make it make sense, it does not
make sense.
So,
correct.
Instagram and the tickety talk are a thing.
It's a thing.
And I know that a lot of people do those for clickbait. But when we went to PlantCon and I said to people, hi, what's the craziest thing you've ever done to your plant? And the shit people said, and the willingness and the eagerness in which they told me what they do with their plants.
The belief in it.
They said it with their whole heart.
Whole chest out, heart. Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Yes. Looking at us like we're crazy.
So the first was the woman that told me she bakes her soil.
That's a thing. That's a real thing.
And then I talked to some of your friends on the interweb, on the Instagram, and they said they bake their soil too. So let's talk about baking your soil.
Okay, so baking your soil is a big one. We've heard that over and over again.
Like on a cookie tray, I got to know how they do this.
And listen, in the apartments of like New York, where there's really like no. Okay, so I'm a New Yorker, lived in New York, and your oven is usually filled with things that you don't have storage for. So the fact that I love my people, and again, I love you all. I love all of you. But the fact
Well,
that
no,
we
maybe
then,
not the bake your soil folks.
listen,
I'm over them.
I love the Baker Soil fans because here's the crazy part about it. I love them. I love them because here's the thing. The willingness in your New York apartment to take all the things out of your oven because you
and
don't
empty
use
that
it.
pot and put it on a baking sheet.
It takes, I mean, you love your babies because it takes willpower. Like in my oven when I lived in New York, I had my extra comforter. Like I had like, so I think I had like a pillow or something. Like I had crazy things in my oven, right? And it's a thing. Like that's what New Yorkers do. You lived in New York, I lived in New York. When you live in the city in Manhattan, you don't have storage room. So you don't cook either. So as a single individual, I packed my oven with things. So for you to then unpack your oven with things and then empty out your soil and then put it in there to bake it, you believe it, right? Like you believe that it is the right thing to do. So let's talk about why people think it's good, right? So bacteria, right? We talk about bacteria in your soil. There's good bacteria and then there's bad bacteria. And so the concept, from my understanding, I don't do it, but the concept around it as I talk to people is that, well, I'm going to get rid of the bad bacteria. But if you heat, let's just make it make sense. If you heat your soil at 350, 400, you're not only killing the bad bacteria, but you're also killing the good bacteria. And let's say you thought that that was a thing and it made sense. How do you get the good bacteria back into? We say soil it's a living organism. It's a living thing. So you just baked all the microbes, all the living things out of your soil. I'm going to give that a 0 out of 1,000. Like, people, please stop baking your soil.
Ooh, hold on. Speaking of heat.
Oh, the heat.
A beautiful young lady bought the fanciest new plant, and she was a new plant mom to this new plant baby, and she brought it home when she was a nervous parent. So she had it all wrapped up. I don't even think she had the little bassinet to put it in it yet. And
Okay.
she put it on a heating pad for the night.
Ah, the heating pad. Yes. Okay. I have yet, if any of our viewers can really explain this to me, I have yet to understand.
She thought she got this rare tropical plant and it
needed the
just
heat.
needed to spend the night on the heating pad.
Yes. So I do not understand the heating pad. I understand the thought process around it. Never seen it before. Don't. So what I will say is that like when you grow tropical plants, right? So again, living in Florida and being in Tulum and all the things, if you live in a cold environment, Canada, New York, whatever, and you bring a tropical plant to you, I think the thought process is I need to heat it up, right? I need to put it on the heating pad. Not a thing. Not necessary at all. Plants will adjust. Now, all plants don't do well in every environment. That's why you have, just like not all plants do well in every soil. That's why when you look at in a greater like understanding, when you look at different zones, when you see people say, I'm in a 1B, I'm in a this, I'm in a that, that's their soil zone. And a lot of plants grow better in that soil zone than it does in a plant in a zone that doesn't have that type of soil. The same with tropical plants. When you're buying a plant and you're looking at a plant, especially with these events that are in different cities that you go to, and then we are starting to see a lot of people coming internationally. Like I think we had somebody from Japan. I think you knew the guy.
Yes.
From Japan, and that was great. And he brought some plants that from Japan. We really need to educate ourselves on, will those plants thrive in our environment? So creating an environment with a heating pad isn't really going to do the trick. You're going to shock the plant. you're going to really upset its growth. I'd love to hear anybody that has actually done that and said that their plants prosper. I don't see how. But that's what we call like shocking your plant, transplant shock. Because unless you're going to keep them in that environment all the time, especially when they're growing up, unless you're going to maintain that environment all the time, your plants are not going to be successful. So I'm also going to give that a 0 out of 10 because that's a no-go.
Okay, and why the rubbing alcohol? We talk about that.
Okay, so all right.
The spraying, the drenching the leaves
Yes.
in rubbing alcohol.
Look, I think that's a TikTok, a Instagram, that's a clickbait. Look, I think
It's a really popular plant store, actually.
it's
And she swears by it. And she makes me believe. I really think I need to wake up and just
drench them, right?
OxyClean. What did we use back in the day for our phrases? Like Stridex,
Yeah,
OxyClean.
all
Like
the
I feel
things.
like she just gets in there and we just soak those leaves in alcohol.
I think people are really concerned about pests. Like we haven't talked about pests, and we will in some different episodes. But I think pests is a big deal for plant parents, right? And I think everybody's trying to find that way. I mean, gnats is a huge thing. Like people talk about gnats. I have so many gnats. That comes from so many different things. You see, people have so many different. Remedies around trying to get rid of gnats. Gnats is a hard one. I think, powdery mildew, mealybugs. I think that's a way. Alcohol, it's very strong, it's very stringent. I don't use it. I think that it's going to shock your plant. So I think your plant isn't going to like it. I know that you see people where they'll do a 2-1 mix, and they think that works. The thing about alcohol is that there's so many different percentages of alcohol, of rubbing alcohol. And I think even with some of our Instagram friends or people that use it, the problem that they don't really always explain is the percentage of the alcohol you can and should use. It's not a preventative. So rubbing alcohol spray is not a preventative. We want things that are going to be preventative. We want to prevent our plant babies from being attacked by certain
Proactive,
things.
not reactive.
Proactive, not reactive. And, spritzing and drenching your plants with rubbing alcohol, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I think there's the reasons why it can work. It does have properties in the things that get rid of certain things, but don't get rid of all things. But it's really, really hard on your plants. It will dry out your leaves. And that's not something that I think you would really want to put your plant baby through.
Okay. And then can we talk how suddenly your whole breakfast needs to go to your plants? I got to soak my banana peels in the water. I got to soak my eggshells in the water. I got to save my coffee grounds. Why does my breakfast have to go to Larry in the corner?
Well, breakfast is a thing. I think that, somebody, and I don't know whom. So let's talk about the banana peels. Bananas, potassium, right? Your plants do need potassium, can need potassium. I don't think it's a thing that you need all the time. You can have potassium deficient plants, but that's because your soil needs to be amended. But it's not going to be amended with you boiling, soaking your banana peels. It's not a thing. It doesn't work. Somebody decided on TikTok that was a thing and they did it, and then the whole community followed it. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You're overwatering. Stop with the banana peels. I don't have much to say on that, but just stop. It doesn't work. It's not a thing. You're not getting any potassium in your plant by basically soaking banana peels in your water. Just stop. Also, the eggshells. The eggshells are interesting because when I grew up, my mom
saved them in the orange juice container.
100%. 100%. And they give you that really weird smell. And you would your whole house on Saturday morning after you did all your chores, your mom would be like, let's water the plants. And then after all the cleaning things, and my mom was notorious cleaner, we would then water our plants with the eggshells, and your whole house smelled like I don't know what, right? So, I've never tried, I I can't debunk that one to the point where it doesn't work, not because we did it.
You can't diss your mama.
I can't not that. I mean, I no, we would not diss Mary.
Yeah.
She would not like that. But I think there's something to it. I don't know what. I'll be honest. I always tell you when I don't know. There's something to it, but I think that the way the products that are out there right now, which we have science behind, that we really know worked, I think is what we should be using. I don't see science and I don't have science behind that. I know my mom had beautiful plants. It was amazing. I mean, I can just see my great-grandmother had beautiful plants and that's what she used. So I don't know. I don't have the science behind it, but there are so many things that we can do that we do have science behind and that smell better. So if you want to give your plants the eggshells because that's what you're used to and it brings you, when I see it and do it, it gives me kind of that feeling of my great-grandmother and my mother and having that experience. So, I'll leave it at that. But I think that's something that there's other products. The coffee, I think the coffee grounds, guys, you drink your coffee, you put your wet coffee. Remember, look, there's a lot of things that we talk about with the bugs, and I just brought out gnats. Whenever you put wet coffee grounds or coffee grounds on top of your soil, and then that soil you wet, right? Coffee grounds tend to absorb and maintain moisture. So when you're wondering why you have gnats and all types of things coming and dropping eggs and coming out of your soil, well, that's why. Right?
Because you got your breakfast.
Because you got your breakfast sitting in your soil, and coffee grounds maintain moisture. Not a thing. You do not want moisture sitting on top of your soil. You want moisture at the roots of your soil. So it makes no sense whatsoever. It provides no nutrients level for you to put coffee grounds.
Provides me nutrients.
Listen,
the get up and go nutrient.
The get up and go. You need your get up and go. I get it, but you don't need it in your plant. Again, there's so many different alternatives that you can use to really make it make sense and not absolutely create gnats and certain things that are just hovering on top of the soil. Not necessarily. I'm going to give that one. I'm going to give bananas 0 out of 10. I'm going to give your eggshells, maybe 5 out of 10, because I just don't know the science behind it, but I know I saw it work maybe. And I'm going to give the coffee a negative, because a negative 100 out of 10, because you are going to get gnats in your soil.
Okay, and Jungle Jane here. Does she need to come in the shower with us?
She does not need to go in the shower with you. I do love the fact that everybody wants to give your plants some spa experience. Your plants
the rainforest experience.
Your plants don't need the rainforest, the spa. It doesn't need any of that. It actually doesn't even really like for you to spritz it with water. It likes a humidifier. It likes moist air, not moist plants.
It doesn't need the shower rain.
Doesn't need
a good shaking. Vigorous.
No,
it doesn't need a hurricane.
It doesn't need you to put a music clip on either that says boom, thunder and lightning. It doesn't need any of that. Please stop. You're doing too much. You're shocking your plant, right? And plants, the moisture when, and I see this, it's like the context is there, but the application really falls down. Most plants, not all, but there are some plants that love moisture. Right? Moisture, that means humidity in your air. There are plenty of plants and you need to know your plants. It doesn't mean
you need to get up every day.
No. And please stop spraying it. Also, too, that also attracts bugs to your plants, right? The moist leaves attracts bugs to your plants because usually in your house, you don't have the airflow to dry them appropriately. So when people are saying on these social media platforms that the plant wants moisture, that's true. It's the application that we're falling down on. Your plants want moisture in the air, so a good humidifier would be ideal. I do see, I'll talk about Blossom Effect page. She does a really good job talking about the moisture in her air, right? In her apartment at one point. Now she has a new home. I think that's the key, right? So the context is there. Our application really falls down. I'm going to give that a 0 out of 10.
500 plants alive.
She's got it down.
She knows a thing or two.
So shaking it. And I will say this though, there are plants that do really well in your shower, and it's not because you're getting drenched. It's the moisture. So again, people pay attention to what the plant is actually asking for.
That steamy little humid.
The steamy humidity, right? So I'll give you giving your plant a jungle rainforest experience, a spa experience. I've seen that on there. I'm going to give that a 0 out of 10. We're not doing good right now on the plants.
Sorry, Jungle Jane.
Sorry, it's not working. Yeah.
What are some things you've heard? Because everyone was coming to you for all the advice. Remember that poor young lady? She came to you and desperately needed your help.
Yeah, I think the most things that I get at the show is really like people love their babies and they do a really good job of taking pictures. So I love that. And I love at shows when they show me their babies. And I think, they're always asking me what's the best way to propagate? What's the best way, to, divide this plant in half? And I'm always asking, well, why do you want to divide the plant in half, right? Because that's plant transplant shock, right? You're shocking the plant. Why are we doing that? Is there a reason? Cinnamon is a big one. I don't know why. Again, I understand the properties of cinnamon. Cinnamon is an amazing, food group product, whatever you want to call it. I don't think it belongs in your plants. If you have bug problems, cinnamon ain't it. Right? Like you need to not put cinnamon in your plants. People love cinnamon. You can put cinnamon in your coffee, put cinnamon in your rolls, put cinnamon in anything else, but don't put it on your plant. I don't see the benefit of that at all. Never saw it. I could be wrong, but in my opinion, it's never really happened. We see that a lot. 0 out of 10. I think another one that I see is just the lights. And we talked about this in one of our other episodes, like putting these influencers that I call lights. A lot of people assume that their plants need direct sunlight, that they need a light gleaming on them. There's so many plant apps out there that you can use. We can talk about them, but I think it's important that if you can find a free plant app or you can look up your plant, once you identify what plant you have, I think it's important to understand most information. You can Google it, plant apps, whatever your poison is. It tells you what type of light your plant needs. It tells you the food, the light, the things. It tells you the region, the humidity. It goes into detail. Educate yourself on your plants. Just because if you're in a place where you don't get a lot of light, doesn't mean your plants need that much light. So when you go and buy these lights and you put them on them and you stick them on top and you shine the light directly on it, it's going to hurt your plants. It's not a one thing fix all. It's not a one thing, like you need light. Yes, you need light, but what type of light? How much light? How tall should the light be from your plant, right? Because I think my influencer light should go 6 inches or an inch, 12 inches up or whatever. You need to understand your plant. And I think that's a thing that I get a lot at the shows. I'm like, dude, that plant is burnt.
It's hard out here to understand your plant because we consume things at 6-second intervals, and every time you scroll, there's someone new telling me something new.
Let's put it like this. I mean, we call these plants, we got into this early on, and it was like the plant, the dogs are the new children, and then the plants are the new pets, right? I can tell you this. If you have a child or you have a pet, you research what you give your pet. You research what you give your child. You don't just willy-nilly, most people don't just willy-nilly it and be like, oh, so-and-so on Instagram said my kid deserves XYZ. You do your research. And I think that's what we're missing. You have to do your research. And it's like sound bites.
But we're all chasing the shiny leaves. We see someone and we're like, ooh, look what they did. And then we want to try all that.
Look, I think the shiny leaves are a thing. People are spraying their plants with all types of things, and you're wiping them off, and you have the special glove that people are buying. That's a hack I see. And we are chasing the shiny leaves, and that's cool. We all want to be pretty. Like everybody wants to be pretty. Everybody wants their things to be pretty. But there's a balance that we need, right? We need a balance to understand, what our plant really wants and what our plants really need versus what we want and what we want the plant to look like, right? Because we really do too much with the plants. We do a lot of things that are unnecessary. one thing I'll see is that I'll hear just quickly, they'll say, dust. You want to dust off your plants. And they'll say like dust attract bugs. I don't see it. If you want your plants to be shiny and pretty, have at it. Dust them off.
If they dust them to let the light get at them, no?
It's fine. No one's outside dusting plants. Like I don't, and the lights get there fine. I mean, look, I get beautiful. You want to clean your plants. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're spraying a product on your plants to create a glossiness that's not true to the plant, right? Remember, you're putting something on your plant. And I don't know, do those things attract bugs on your plant? Have we thought about that, right? Because it's oily and it's glossy and it's pretty. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying know what you're doing. Like understand what you're doing to your plants. And if you don't know, you can always reach out to us on Instagram. There's a lot of other really good people out here that talk a lot about plants, that understand plants. But look, I think the model for me in plants is less is more, right? And when I say you're doing too much, that's what I mean. Less is more. Do less with your plants, do more with yourself, and let your plants be. They will thrive in the perfect soil environment. Trust me when I tell you that.
Okay, Miss Thrive Roots. What is your takeaway with all this noise we hear on the interweb? What's your takeaway that we need to focus on with these plants? Reel us in, please.
Reel us in. All right. So my takeaway is just that stop. So stop. Your plants need minimal attention. They need specific attention, but minimal attention. Think of your plants as like a relationship, right? Like you're like,
I'm good at ignoring those.
Yeah, see, like this, you
I'm
just
the best.
Yeah, you want things when you
them.
want them, and then you don't want to be bothered. There's this whole trend that I see on Instagram that's like, women, at a certain age, they're not getting married, they don't want to be bothered, they're just like living their best life in their home. Let's use that as an example, right? So plants want the least amount of attention, but they want the attention when they want it and when they need it. And so, making sure that they have a healthy environment to live in is important. That's why we say soil is important. Making sure that you're watering but not overwatering, making sure that your plants are getting nutrients but not over being nutrient, not too much nutrients. It's a dance, it's a balance. And
light, not too much
light. And let's talk about the light for briefly, because the light is, the plants are, again, living organisms. I keep saying that because I want to just make that make sense. Plants need, just like us, they need light in the morning or light at one point, and then they need to go to sleep. So keeping a light on your plants all day is not ideal, right? Just like we need sleep and we need dark, your plants need dark. Just like how you feel good when you wake up in the morning, you see the sunlight, the plants want to feel good when they wake up in the morning and they see the sunlight, or however you have it scheduled. Some people work at night, so it's a little bit different, but however it is, they need a consistent rhythm, right? We're all made of like a rhythm. We have this rhythmic like deal. So your plants need light and they need dark. So if we can just be consistent in that, and if you do that, I think your plants will live very healthy. They will do really well. But I think honestly, we really are doing a lot to these plants that are so unnecessary, and we're doing so much, and it's just not necessary.
For more plant care that makes sense, be sure to click below to follow us on the socials.